screen is visible, right? My presentation.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Harsh.
Yes, Vijaya, please start.
Yeah, so very good evening to all. I'm Vijay to warmly welcome our participants, Cyber Gurukul members, and fellow cyber members for yet another insightful and interesting session. Equally honored to introduce our esteemed speakers and industry veteran, Mr. Praveen Vijay Gopal, cybersecurity evangelist and InfoSec lead at Cisco, Mr. Anand Deshpande, a thought leader and director, data privacy and data protection at Mastercard. Privileged to have you here, Praveen and Anand. Welcome on board. Looking forward to your insightful thoughts. CG core members Satish, Srinivasan, Sasank, and Jagdish. Happy to hear you in between. And Nitin, thank you for helping us and session moderated by Hers, who is our founding member. So over to you, Hers, to take this session forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vijaya, for that wonderful introduction. In fact, I have to actually mention this, that Vijaya is the co-founder and he is my partner in crime in every aspect of Cyber Gurukul. So thank you, Vijaya, and as well as all the core include who had also introduced himself in the non-recorded section. And yes, of course, we need to have a very, very special mention for Praveen and Anand. I had a very good sense of how hectic schedule both of them have. And at the same time, I know that actually thought leaders like them don't need an introduction here. But yeah, still, we will get into that as well in a few minutes. But Praveen, Anand, trust me, we are really keen, very excited. I'm sure you can feel it from me. To leverage your all-rounded experience, data privacy, security, governance, operations. I think we had some discussion and we will get to know more on that in just few minutes. At this point, of course, like every time, let me first start with, reintroducing Cyber Gurukul. I will definitely never miss this beautiful opportunity. Cyber Gurukul. See, for me and a lot of us, and I could feel during the non-recorded introductions also, it's a dream in action for us because we are driven this, by this ambitious aspiration to be the cybersecurity storytellers and consultants to our stakeholders and community at large. Yes, we are ambitious as professionals, at the same time also enable it for others. We are also, having that constant motivation to give back to the society. We want to be that, beautiful connection, that strong connection between the community, the business, and the InfoSec fraternity, sure. And this is stitched by our never dying passion for cybersecurity. Over here, we open it for all InfoSec fraternity so that we can have a 360-degree solution oriented and, of course, PPT centric approach to the different business technology problems, and of course, much more. This has been more than a year journey at this point to enable, engage, and empower. But of course, it would not have been possible without all of us who have joined here today, few of who could not also join. So thank you so much, everyone, all the participants, including the core members, extended family, as well as our esteemed speakers, Praveen and Anand. It's with you that we know we are in the right track, and we will also achieve our ambitious long-term vision. And just like we were discussing our beliefs, our motivation, our aspirations, I know that's the common link in us. And that's the reason each and every time I proudly reiterate that there's a part of Cyber Gurukul in each one of us. Together, we are Cyber Gurukul. And I welcome all the Cyber Gurukul members here into step-by-step deducing privacy protection and also with the security and the governance aspect, along with the treasured insight that Praveen and Anand will be sharing with us. Let us at this point, of course, we are here to, learn from Praveen and Anand, but let us just take few minutes before that and set the ball rolling, set the context for them. So I will now open up to the audience. I would really want you to raise your hand, unmute yourself, and share. This is an image that we constantly see getting rolled in the LinkedIn also, right? And I would really love to hear what this image depicts for you, especially in terms of the privacy importance. Let us hear out first and then continue. Vijay and Nitin, do check out who wants to
Yeah,
answer
I
this.
guess most of the society, which trust, brand, reputation, loyalty, these are very noble words. And in our individual life also, we want to practice this. But these heavy moral are based on privacy. Okay, so privacy is one of the stones which carry the burden of very moral thing in our day-to-day life.
Very interesting, Vijaya. Vijaya connected it to the real day world with the trust, loyalty, and the privacy being the foundation. Very true, Vijaya. An interesting, kind of a depiction. Can we also have some more, ideas out here before we go forward?
Hello, this
So
is Sneh.
participant chat box is
Yeah.
open. Yeah, please. But for this, you
Oh,
have
yeah.
to open up your mic. Yeah, please.
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm Sneh. So
Hi, Sneh.
for me, this image depicts the reality actually. So in reality, people value the privacy less, and they actually the service providers who provide this kind of data services, most of them I have seen that they so do we really need this? So that is the reality, and it is the most important thing also. But how to convince them? That is what I would expect to learn from this session.
Bang on,
Thank you.
Sneh. I think you really pointed out something very important, that privacy has been kind of, ignored for a very long time, but that's the foundation. And we do face challenge in explaining, the importance of privacy practically to our business. So I'm sure that Anand and Praveen are going to help us out. So thank you for this interesting idea again. And that's definitely how we can look at this image. Any other session? We move forward. No worries. Anand, Praveen, I'm sure we are going to discuss very much in detail, but maybe if you would also like to add something before we move forward, I would love to hear that out.
Sure, Harsh. In fact, it was nice to hear different opinions about privacy being foundation stone, being the cornerstone on which business have to build things. But the interesting aspect about privacy is the way we perceive it. So, in fact, have any of you ever looked up how to pronounce privacy? I have done that. And the interesting aspect is go to Google search, it gives you different pronunciation ways. Americans call it as privacy. UK call it as privacy. So you see, even the way it's the same spelling, but the way we pronounce it is different. And that's the whole essence of privacy. Now, we call it as the foundation on which all businesses, on which all service should be built. But the fact is, even to define this foundation, it's a very nebulous concept. See, someone who is from United States might consider privacy to be an aspect where they are not under any kind of monitoring. They are not being surveillanced by any programs. For someone who is from Europe, it is nothing less than the right to freedom, a human right. They are very particular about what their neighbor know about them and how much anyone other than themselves should have control of their data. Now, when we come more close to home in India, it depends upon what society we are in, what culture we follow, what ethnicity we belong to. And if you see our previous generation, probably this concept did not exist. Everybody knew each other by name, by family, by profession. In fact, the health of an individual would be known better by their neighbors than they themselves. They would come and give you tips. But the things are changing. Digitalization came in, that too with the pandemic, rapid pace of digitalization, a lot of data went online. And now we are also becoming much aware that probably there is something which we all should be able to control. So if you ask me the simplest definition of privacy, so I would say it is about putting the control of the data back into the hand of data owner. It's about the self-determination of what that control is, and having the autonomy of the data back with the person to whom that data belongs to. Now, that being said, there is one more stuff which I want to touch, which is the privacy paradox. So I'm sure all of us, even in Cyber Gurukul as well as everywhere you ask, they all want to secure their privacy. But when it comes to acting in favor of privacy, that's where we have something called as behavioral dissonance. We try to act in a different manner. Let me cite one or two examples. Probably one of our group members might be having those Fitbits wearable devices. Before buying that, how many of us have really gone and checked their privacy policy? Oh, wow. I'm sure, Anand, you should have done that. What app what is that app doing with all that statistics, the vital statistics that it's pulling? Where in the world is it pushing that? Who's the company which is operating on that data? And are they selling that data to someone? Have we performed all that assessment? Probably yes, probably no. But that's the aspect that we have to address on in our own side. As individuals, we have to be cognizant of this dispute in the way we believe and in the way we act. So, Anand, over to you.
Sure. Thanks, Praveen. And when I look at this image, I see that there are two stones on which nothing is written. So one thing I would go on a bigger stone to write as a lawsuit, that with privacy there are so many lawsuits coming in, and with the small stone I would just go and write something like a technology and use of data, for that matter. So these are the two things which are very important when it comes to privacy. And Praveen, I think you rightly said about the aspect of pronunciation between US, Europe, and probably the way India uh, takes it so seriously, right? So just want to add upon the India stuff. In India, there is a simple saying that "Kisi ko mat batana." This means that go and tell everybody bloody what is you are going to discuss, right? So there is nothing called as confidentiality which remains, because we Indians are very, very kind of a open-ended people, where we go and talk freely to anybody about anything, any damn thing. We kind of love to do networking. We don't know the boundaries, that to whom are we disclosing our data, or what is the purpose for which we are disclosing this data and all that. So, from a privacy definition perspective, as you rightly said, any identifier, you take anything, you take your passport, your Aadhaar, your Facebook ID, Twitter handle, you take, a ration card, your pay slip, your bank account, everything is personal information. How do you treat that? How do you control that information? Is again in your hand. Earlier, a kind of a small incident when I came from US back to India. Someone in my family asked my mom that, what is he up to now? So I was looking for a job, and I think I got a job that time. And someone came and asked me that, how much are you earning? Unfortunately, I told them it's none of your business. And like the person who asked me was an elder. She went to my mom and she told me that your son has become arrogant after coming from US. So can you imagine the way the privacy comes into picture? My mom asked me, my mom is like a complete housewife for a lifetime. And my mom asked me a very simple question: why were you so arrogant with that lady? So I told her I never asked her husband's income, and I don't know where he invests. So I don't think somebody should ask me that, why they should look upon me. And typically if you look at the case studies, take the simple example of matrimonial websites. Typically every information, including your blood group, is mentioned in that, right? These things can be discussed because you're going to be a life partner, but at a certain period, not at the initial stage. Matrimonial websites are typically meant for making your choice or shortlisting your choice. but people love to go and disclose everything, your hobbies, your favorite colors, what not. I mean, like I start laughing at some time when I read something like that. But then again, it's a typical website which should have, like you absolutely rightly said, Praveen, that it should have a specific privacy notice, that when a website or a product or a service is collecting and processing that data, it should have a specific privacy notice on their website, which specifically says that what data they are collecting, for what purpose they are collecting this data, how are they going to process that data, will that be disclosed to a third party, or if somebody wants to opt out, what are the best mechanism, in case of question, whom should they call. So all these things, and as per the Indian IT Act as of now, which is prevailing over there, the section 43A, the rules specifically call out that you need to mention the name of the grievance officer with his contact details on the website of the organization, right? So there are recourses available, but the problem is that, as you see, the awareness, or say the sensitivity within Europe or US with respect to privacy, that is still not in India. It is gaining by reading a lot of cases which are coming up, but then it is still yet to come. And now privacy earlier was like to be considered as the best friend for security, but now privacy has opened its boundaries. Privacy is coming up with antitrust laws. Privacy is coming up with anti-competition laws, for that matter. I mean, pick up any case for Facebook or Google and you will read all these stuff. So, we can dig more into it, in further session, but yeah, these are the top thoughts which come to my mind. And, I kind of gave a live example of my own self when it comes to privacy, how it is to be maintained. Over to you, Harsh.
Praveen, Anand, I think these were really comprehensive insights into what exactly is privacy and what's happening around us. I think Praveen did mention about the privacy perception in terms of the ethnicity, the culture, and how it is also changing with the time. And of course, the paradox you mentioned. And I agree, there's only one among 40 people who have actually read the privacy policies. And I think Anand then dig deeper and also covered the missing pieces in this image, and that was a wonderful imagination as well as reality. The missing pieces being the technology, the use of data, and of course the lawsuits. So I think that was very interesting to hear. And then I think we had Anand's personal example into covering the privacy perceived in India, and I think it's time we start understanding that demanding privacy is not arrogance. So I think, and you did touch a bit also upon the how PII is collected and processed. So I think we are definitely going to discuss that also more in detail. In fact, when we talk about privacy, I think we all will agree privacy, trust, they're also going to be the defining the characteristics of the business success today and in the upcoming time as well, in decades to come, in fact. And Praveen rightly mentioned what is privacy, and that's truth. As individuals, we are demanding the ownership of our data today, as well as expecting transparency of how it is stored, shared, handled, right? And now coming to the other side of the table, which again, Praveen, Anand, they touched upon a couple of pieces over here. We have this big onus today to bring that kind of a comprehensive security posture which can cover privacy, security, as well as the compliance. Because today, privacy is as equally core competence as the traditional functions. And I think we will deep dive into these, different perspectives. I think Praveen and Anand already has scratched the surface. We will be digging up. We already had some, breaking ice with the who and what of data privacy. We'll be doing more in detail now with Praveen and Anand. And we will also have some interesting discussions around what's exactly happening today. Again, Anand did cover a bit on that, but specifically more in terms of the last 2 years with the pandemic coming up. Of course, it's on and off at this point, but what are those data privacy challenges which has surfaced or maybe heightened because of this? And let's then also focus on the solution part. Let us understand what are those cornerstones through which we can actually establish privacy by design. And of course, also understand on what exactly privacy by design over here means. The role of technology, I'm sure Praveen is from a leading company. He will be also helping us map it with the technology. And of course, at least dig a little deeper into what is the upcoming personal data protection bill expecting. Of course, this is the elephant in the room. Let's leave the gray areas and the debates and actually focus on what to start, where to start, and how do we actually evaluate our security posture, or what are those critical components that we need to focus on at this point. So now, without further delay, I think Praveen and Anand already has, helped us break the ice with what is data, what is privacy and not. But let's now go further and break the ice with them as well. Anand, let's now start with you, and let's, break the ice with you, and let us know, what are the kind of experiences that you will be, sharing your insights on.
Yeah, so sure. Thanks, Harsh. So I believe this concept is quite hyped as of now, right? Uh, First of all, we'll need to learn to simplify things. For example, we already have, since most of us work with the global companies, we already have one of the stringent provision called as General Data Processing, right? GDPR regulation for that. And trust me, that's a very comprehensive and very product service neutral, or say technology neutral law, which helps us support how ethically organization can process the consumer data. And if it is not going by that, probably there are hefty penalties coming to the business, to the extent that some of the businesses may go bankrupt, ideally, right? So it is that kind of a threat. But that I think that threat is quite important, because a lot of data has been already exploited a lot, so it is better to prevent it. And like it is said, privacy is quite preventive rather than reactive. So one important thing to start, like, how do I implement privacy in my organization? Very simple steps and very common step to achieve for that. So first of all, probably everybody needs to understand that what is my goal, what am I going to try to achieve by implementing privacy in my organization, what is my vision for that. They also need to figure out what is the scope where I want to put the privacy. Based on that, they have to decide what framework I'm going to use for that matter, and then select my team as I want it, right? For example, now typically one of the important thing in privacy, that where to start. Most of the people say, oh, these are quite high level things, but where do I actually start? One thing is for sure, that privacy starts, it talks about data, specifically personal data. One very important criteria in managing and maintaining personal data is to know the source and destination of that personal data. So one needs to find out where the data is coming in your organization. What are the sources? For example, a recruiter may be calling up a lot of data from as a part of resume for hiring, and they may be getting all these data. Then you pass it on to the to your third party vendor, who is going to process the employment data for that matter. You have customer data coming in. You have a third party service providers who are providing services on your behalf. Likewise, there has to be a data mapping mesh, which are in short data mapping, you can say data flows for that matter, which will tell you that what are the sources and who are the people who are accessing that data. And then you go and classify that data as per your organization's policy, implement the necessary controls with respect to access control, say processing controls, compensating controls, deterrent controls, likewise. And then educate the people that this is not your data. We are mere custodian of that data, but the data owner needs to be protected at that time. So this is a bigger holistic picture with which people should look at. One of the important criteria when you look at this particular part is something, again, this is based on my experience, is managing your third party contractors. Because once data leaves your boundary, it is out of your control, right? So that is why you need to very much reassess your vendors to whom you are hiring, in terms of doing a data privacy impact assessment, technology evaluation. Some people have third party risk management team who does that, right? All these things are very, very important. And depending upon nature of processing, type of data getting transitioned to them, all these, evaluations will differ. It is not a standard checklist one should use. That is my humble suggestion, that don't go by the standard checklist. You create your own checklist based on your requirements. Because copying something from Google or asking somebody in a WhatsApp group, hey, do you have a checklist for that? We are not complying with any kind of a standard. We are evaluating a standard for our own organization, for that matter, considering the risk appetite what we have. And I think probably let's take that particular question which I usually ask to people. In risk management there are 4 T's. How many of you know what do you mean by 4 T's? You can unmute yourself and try to answer. 4 T's. The word T for Thomas. 4 T's. What are those 4 T's under risk management?
Anand, just to add, it need not be 4 T's. It could be A's as well. Different ways of translating it, right?
Yeah,
Maybe to help the audience, I can use the other terms, which stands for
yeah,
avoid,
let's
accept,
connect
transfer,
it.
mitigate.
Correct.
Yeah.
So you answered the question first, Praveen. The first T is when you say mitigate, it's treat. So that's first T. What are the 3 T's? Anybody making an attempt? No? Let me talk then in the interest of time, because Praveen needs to speak also after me. So out of that 4T, 1T Praveen told about the treating the particular risk. The second is something which is transferring, something which you cannot manage the risk at your own end. You just transfer that risk in the form of a cyber insurance, right? Which is a first party and third party insurance, which covers the privacy aspect of it. The next T is tolerate, right? So there is risk cannot be zero. I'm sure everybody understand that risk cannot be zero. So there is some risk which remains, that is called as a residual risk, which you kind of tolerate. Every business needs to absorb. And if that cannot be done, there is something simple called as terminate. That means you either shut down that business operation or you terminate your business, whatever is the best case possible there. So these are the 4 T's. So this risk assessment, audit, your implementation, this is a continuous cycle. This is called as a maker checker balance coming into your organization. So that is where the implementation should start. There are a lot of industry standards. You have ISO 27701, 22308, which is coming up. Then you have NIST 853 guidelines specifically for privacy. So there are a lot of things in which you can maintain a privacy within your organization. There is a specific COVID 5 framework, which is also used by ISACA for the purpose of implementing privacy. So there are various ways in which organization can pick up the respective standard to maintain privacy within their organization. So these are my initial thoughts. Praveen, if you can add to it, that will be good.
Thanks, Anand. So first thing, Harsh, I like the way you have organized and structured the session. So, and in fact, it's interesting to see Anand just touched on almost every topic that you had on that. I think the cartoon, that first one that you showed, yeah. So coming to my thoughts, it's first thing is to understand or delineate what is cyber security risk and what is privacy risk. So I think we have to start by drawing a picture around how these two concepts are coming together now. And the fact here is, at times people consider is the same. They say data privacy, that means it's security, security means privacy. So it has to start by understanding these two things are two sides of the same coin, but they don't mean exactly the same. In fact, if you see, it's like a Venn diagram, two circles and intersecting. Then that intersection is where you have the cyber security privacy events or incidents. Now, that being said, if any organization have to think in building or moving towards a privacy friendly business or product, first they have to understand what is their business environment, what are they operating in. So Harsh, coming to the first point that you brought up, what is that we are seeing in last 2 years of pandemic, how things has drastically changed for every individual for the business. So probably I will touch on that aspect and then let the session take its own course. So touching on where we are right now. So let's see three different facets at least. As a individual, there are those apps that had come up, those contact tracing apps, that Arogya Setu app, specifically in India, everywhere around the world. Lot of personal data, sensitive data went into that app. Where it is being stored, how it is being stored is not very clear. At least in Europe or US, we always had those regulations in place, but unfortunately in India, we are still talking about the regulation or the bill getting converted into act. When will it happen? Time will tell. So for a user, it was a lot of such personal data going into unknown things and being used for purposes which are probably curtailed to the user. As an business, how did my business get impacted? There's an opportunity as well as impact. The opportunity is the rapid digitalization that has taken place. Earlier, there were a lot of mom and pop shops, there were brick and mortar stores, all of them went digital. And that too in a very rapid phase. The whole ecosystem, whether it be finance or health, doctors are consulting online. We are doing most of the transaction using those apps on our phone. But the point here is all this has happened at such a rapid phase. Are the businesses really taking care of course, they would be taking care of protecting the data, but how about the privacy aspect? So when I say from the business angle, and that's where we have to think from the security risk and the privacy risk. So let me give an example. There's I'm going to state there is one of the experts in privacy. It's called as Daniel Solov's taxonomy on privacy violation. So that is basically he talks about different stages in the privacy on the data life cycle, and he enumerates what could be the impact. So for example, one impact is exclusion. So you see your data is protected, but you are being excluded in some manner. For instance, all your finance data has gone up into the cloud, and business uses that to create a rating for you, which actually excludes you from applying loans. But was that allowed? Did they take my consent? So that's the challenge that the business is going to face. Plus, now business it's of course an opportunity, and another challenge that we all have seen is we all are working from home. Even this session, I wish this could have been a face-to-face session, but of course virtual, and I see across India folks are joining. Good. But then if you notice, we are peeping into each other's home. In fact, there would be things behind us which we are unknowingly showing up. So it's like, and in fact the sessions are recorded. Are we following all those norms? Are we letting the audience people know that all this we are talking is getting recorded? All that shows up is being recorded. So those are the challenges that this new pandemic and this new digital revolution has put in front of users, employees, and businesses. Harsh, to you.
Yeah. So one
Yeah,
point, Harsh,
yeah, no.
before we go to the next point,
Mhm.
on the topic what Praveen exactly said. So what the pandemic has brought, probably going back to your earlier cartoon, where you have something called as privacy by design. I guess you should also add there privacy by design and security by default. Like Praveen said, it is the two sides of the same coin, right? They go hand in hand. One cannot live without each other, right? So when you go for such kind of stuff, because everything, like there was a almost lockdown, people who got out in the lockdown orders, they got good tattoos on their body part through the police, right? So you can imagine transporting the laptops back to the employees, making sure they use that data properly, making sure all monitoring softwares are implemented on that, making sure that the network strength is maintained. The use of internet has probably in this pandemic had reached on the top, right? So think of, and even the modes of payment, people went to Paytm, phone pay, Google Pay, you just name the wallet, people have it and they start paying. Even I was not expecting that, a kind of a sabji wala, he was having a wallet and he kind of started, don't pay in cash, pay me via Google Pay or Paytm. That's good for me. Go to medical store. So the different impacts again were implemented. But think that from an organization perspective, when you're implementing such change, like Praveen said, there are two types of risk. One is a legal risk, the way I'm collecting the data, and the second risk is cyber security risk, where the way I'm processing the data, am I securely processing the data? And again, legal risk follows with the cyber security risk also, for that matter. For example, when you develop a particular product or a service, and since Praveen talked about the taxonomy of data life cycle, typically you need to make an assessment initially within your organization before you roll out that model. When you have a particular data getting processed outside of your organization, you have to make sure that that assessment record is maintained, that risks are highlighted to the respective management, risk treatment is done, and then you actually roll out the product. So the pioneer of privacy by design starts from here. What data is coming to me? And since you have that data map, which I already explained, if you have that data maps ready, you can have that clear visibility as to who has that data, where it is getting stored, who will have access, what are the access controls on that data, how am I maintaining that data, am I giving a proper notices to people as to how to use that data, what kind of awareness I'm bringing in, so that there are minimal fallbacks or minimum incidents that trigger to any kind of either a security breach or a privacy breach. Again, there's a thin line between what is security breach and privacy breach, which we will talk about maybe in the later part of the session.
I think
On,
Praveen,
on a
yes, please,
on
Praveen.
a lighter note, while Anand was explaining about digitalization and all that, probably all of us might be familiar with that mime which was floating around. What India government's demonetization policy couldn't do, the pandemic did. All of us are, whether we like it or not, we are into digital world now. Like he said, even panwalas use Paytms nowadays.
So on a lighter note, again, because you mentioned this, there was a joke which used to come up now. You know who's been the enabler of digital transformation? Is it CEO, CISO, or CIO, or is it COVID-19?
Exactly.
So I think,
Yeah.
yes,
So
yes, of
that's
course,
what this
enabling.
this
Sorry, sorry, please,
situation
please.
has created opportunity but challenges as well.
And even if you look from the opportunity perspective, there are certain burdens which also came on the organization.
Of course.
For example, you look at that data which was never required. Have you completed your vaccination? We never ask anybody unless they are internationally traveling, whether you had all vaccinations done. But nowadays, just to come on premises, companies ask, do you have vaccination? Right? Then you identify people who had COVID. You have data about people who had COVID and who actually passed away, unfortunately, in your organization because of their insurance processing. So the data which was not supposed to be a part, the pandemic has changed its entire dynamics, and it has brought additional data with additional responsibility and legal risks and cyber security risk, for that matter. So I mean, pandemic has been a kind of a, probably for this and for next generation, it's going to be a big time lesson learned as to you should be prepared for every glitch which may come with or without warning.
Definitely, I think pandemic actually is a lesson learned. Sorry, Praveen, you wanted to add something. Please do that.
No, I was just what Anand just explained reminded me. I think in PDPB there is an interesting clause which talks about data rights of diseased individuals. I
Yeah,
think that's the first ever stuff
yeah,
that
that's a
has
first ever. Yes.
can't imagine the level of thought process has gone into putting this document, that too which resulted in around 150 corrections and 81 recommendations from JPC.
Correct,
Anyway, we will
approximately, yes.
park that when the topic comes up.
Yeah.
Yes, I think this pandemic has actually also made the upcoming personal data protection bill much more trickier and stricter that way. And I think really amazing, extensive inputs that Praveen and Anand have shared us at this point. I'll also very quickly, just sum up what we discussed just now. Nitin, just be ready with the opinion poll. I'll just, we'll start it in 2 minutes. So I think Anand very well said that, simplification, and I'll add storytelling. I think is the key to way forward if we have to, work together step by step, reduce the next steps. You mentioned also briefly on GDPR, and also then a little on data exploitation and how we have to make privacy predictive, that which even Praveen was mentioning one of the time I was speaking, going to the left side, right? So I'm sure we'll discuss that also in detail. I'm sure in the next discussion, we'll discuss more on how we can actually have that framework, plus that data mapping or the flow, keeping in mind the source destination, or keeping in mind the legitimate business process. I think that's something we will discuss a little in detail. I think you also covered a bit on the different components, like the importance of user consent and classification as per sensitivity. You did mention of some processes like privacy impact assessment, which also needs to be used for a reassessment currently. And of course, it's high time we need to learn. We have to move out from that checklist world. Very interesting 4Ts was also mentioned: treat, transfer, tolerate, and terminate. And that's how, we can convert ourselves from checklist to these 4Ts. And of course, you mentioned bit on the compliance part as well. And let's not forget the added burden like vaccination also, which is now going to make data protection a little more complex. Praveen, I think, had the other side of the coin. I must say Anand and Praveen are really complementing each other well. Praveen did mention on data security versus the data privacy. I think that was really important. We should have covered, and we did that. And what's actually happening today in terms of the business environment, we also went into in terms of the nation. The Arogya Setu example was really good that way for us to understand of the kind of, you can say, paradoxes we are handling currently. And yes, enabling digitization has been a strong, beautiful story, but securing it has been a very different story altogether. You also covered quite a bit on user consent and also the risk that has heightened or increased when we are talking about the data privacy challenges, which also Anand touched upon, the the legal and security risk. I think we did get quite a bit of way ahead. What we'll do is we'll just take 2 minutes. Nitin, why don't you please put that opinion poll currently, and then we can move forward with the next round and the way
Yes,
ahead.
yes, Harsh.
So now we are opening up to all the audience. With the opinion poll, we would love to hear what you think is happening today. We had shared a cheat sheet when we had given you the final reminder today. This actually explains the importance of not only data privacy, but how fast this is becoming important. So what do you think? How much of the world population will be covered under the modern privacy regulation by the end of 2023, which means we are talking about the next 2 years. We had ourselves given one reference sheet to to help you out with that. So let's see what you feel about this. You've got some answers for 65, 72, 75. Let's hope you're answering not as per the privacy 2020, but privacy 2021 report, because there are some big changes that has also happened in last 1 year itself. So we'll just wait for a few more seconds. Only 53% participated. Let's wait for more to come. So Praveen, Anand, what do you think about here? What do you think, how much world population should be covered by 2023 with the modern privacy regulation?
So Harsha, I did go through that link that you shared. So I think I should not add spoilers now. But that was a very, very, very interesting hype cycle article.
Yeah, that's true.
Definitely. So we'll just wait of how many of us actually took the benefit of that cheat sheet.
But that's interesting thing that that particular article you shared, the hype cycle. Gartner always comes up every year with such hype cycle. It's nice to see this time around they have made it once dedicated for privacy.
Yes, yes. And I think it extensively also talks about the technologies that
Exactly.
can cover data privacy, and which I'm
Yes.
sure you will be covering up more
Oh
in
yeah.
a few seconds.
Technology, I love it. Been engineer all my life, now security practitioner, but the engineer in me keeps coming out.
Interesting. I think almost 70% answered. I think it's okay now. We can actually, okay. We'll definitely share the link again a little later, Abhay, and let's now continue. Let's see, 50% of the participants who have kind of voted feel it's 75%, and we also have a few for 65 and 72. So I'm happy that half of the people actually did get a little time to check that. Yes, it's true. It's 75% who actually, of the world population that will get covered up by 2023 end. It was 65% as per the 2020 report. But then if you see how fast we are growing, as per the hype cycle report of Gartner privacy, in terms of privacy for Gartner, it was about 65% by 2023. And now in this year, predictions is 75%, which means in next 2 years, major of us are getting covered in the regulations. And currently it is 25%. So this actually explains how much privacy is getting the importance today. So Praveen, let's come to you first now and understand that, we understood what's happening today. We understood of what is privacy, what is not privacy. But then, what is the role of technology over here? And how do we actually, go ahead, keeping mind also the upcoming personal data protection bill? There would be some common elements. I think Anand also covered a couple of them. You also covered it. So what's the road ahead? And
Right.
then we'll come up to Anand.
Sure. So I would start by thinking or talking about privacy engineering. So we have been talking, there is something called as privacy by design, privacy by default. So it all comes under the subject of privacy engineering. Now, we have to understand what privacy engineering is. For that, we have to see it from different angles. So starting from the viewpoint of a user. Just a moment, a pop-up came up. Yeah, the phone. Yeah. So yeah, I was at the viewpoint of the user. So as a user, what am I expecting the product or the service that the business sells to me should cater to? So if you think as a user, I want to secure my privacy, and what would I like to see in that app? It should be disassociation. So that's one of the characters. So I'm going to tell few jargons which are there in NIST privacy framework, and I'm going to map what is required into privacy engineering and fuse it with this framework. So first is about disassociation. So I put the data on that app, and I'm gaining benefits of it. But at the same time, I would expect not to be profiled. How much of identifiability is there in that data? So I would expect first feature to be disassociation, where my identity stays masked as per my wish. Second stuff that I would like to have in that app is manageability. So Anand mentioned about the user having access to the information, about being informed that how much information is there, and having the right to go and correct that data if there is something wrong, or object or restrict the processing. So that's where we have the second flavor, the second property coming in, manageability. And finally, there is one more thing which is about you have manageability, disassociability, and portability. In terms, if I can transfer that data to some other organization, and what process would follow. Now, said that, there are different ways of achieving it. So we can think from the strategy level. So strategy is where, again, Anand mentioned about adapting to a framework. Now we are having PDPB here. There was GDPR, there is CCPA. But if you see most of these privacy regulation, they're hearted as the same place. Protect the user's privacy, build it around, make it user centric. So that's where business should go in the line of adopting or adapting a framework. It could be NIST framework, which is NIST privacy framework, which is again wrapper around the cybersecurity framework, or it could be ISO 27701. And for that, the prerequisite is 27001, the ISMS, and the ISO system is called as PIMS. It's Personal Information Management System. So the strategic level, we have to pick what is the closest framework that we can adapt. So the framework is going to be my roadmap for achieving the level of maturity in privacy processing. So this framework will actually take you through all those steps that Anand mentioned about identifying, that is inventorying all your personal data, creating the map, what steps you should do for having privacy governance. So till date, we have talked about corporate governance. We have talked about security governance. Now comes the talk of privacy governance. So the framework could give you that kind of checks and balances that you should have. Next is about the control. What kind of control should the user have? What kind of control as a data controller or processor should I have in place? Next, it will tell you about communication. Now, Anand also mentioned about transparency. So this framework could give you idea about what kind of transparency or predictability should my system have. So this is again a flavor for the user, that I should be able to predict what this service or product is going to do. And finally, the protection aspects as to what all controls you want to have in place. So that is at the strategy level. Now, this is something like if you see the standard structure of information security organization, there are policies, procedures, and standards. So that's what you have to bring in place first, and then you have to convert it into something which is a security architecture. So right now we are going to dive into the tactical aspect. You have to convert all that into a security architecture and a compliance architecture. So when we talk about security architecture, that's where we have all those new breed of technologies which are privacy preserving technologies, or in other terms, the term used is PET, privacy enhancing technologies. So these technologies go beyond securing CIA of security, C for confidentiality, integrity, availability. So that was the world of cybersecurity. Moving over to the world of privacy, it has to take care of the data limitation, the data what you call the processing limitations, the storage limitations. That's where you have these technological controls. So once you come to the security architectural level, there are different technologies that you have to adopt. So few of them, just for just to throw in few of those terms, something called as homomorphic encryption. So in fact, one of the technologies mentioned in your paper, not your paper, the paper that you shared, Gartner's hype cycle, they have a few of these technologies called out. One is homomorphic encryption. Other is secure multi-party computation. So those are the things that we have to see how all those things can be brought into our product. Along with that, what we can do currently. So that is around protecting your data through pseudonymization or anonymization. So anonymization is where you completely hide the identity of the user in that data, which actually give you the exemption from regulation. So if you anonymize your data, you could actually be exempted from many of these regulations. And similarly, you could pseudonymize or tokenize that information. So these are at the technical or tactical level, the steps that you could take. And at the last point about the compliance, I think Anand could add better on those aspects where the law comes in.
Sure, definitely. I will definitely try, Praveen, on that. But I guess there is some question in the chat. Praveen, would you like to answer that, or do you want me to answer that?
What will happen when big Indian companies start super app where they have hundreds of internal companies sharing data of customers for customer and pushing products? Okay, I think it's around the third party ecosystem, the data aggregators. Anand, probably you can take the call. Otherwise,
Yeah,
maybe we both can do it.
I will just add, and I'll take advantage of what you just spoke, right? So, Harsh, like I said, it's more to simplify, right? When I, as a lawyer, look or talk with a person like Praveen, who is a technology guy, I simply know one formula, that is input plus process equal to output. To input, I need data. To process, I need technology. And when I have output, I have the audience, right? So Abhay, probably on the question what you have asked, this summary will definitely help you. So, when we have that data, like we discussed earlier, when any organization collects or process their data, first of all, they have to follow certain principles when you're doing that. First, the data should be collected lawfully with all fairness and transparency. Nowadays, I'm sure you see that you just visit one pathology lab for certain kind of a test, and you have multiple messages coming into your phone saying that we have pathology offers within such and such amount. You visit for buying a new house, you have all the things coming up. You go to Google browser, type make my trip or some kind of a booking site which allows you to travel within India or internationally. And next day you have multiple opportunities showing a lot of links with that. Remember, typically, that is why it is said that it should be lawfully collected. It has to have fair purpose and transparency when you are processing it. One of the important part over here to understand, there is called as purpose limitation. The data which is collected for a specific purpose must be used for that purpose only. If the purpose changes, you have to go back and inform the person as to how you're going to process that data. Abhay, I'll come back to you. Just give me a second. I guess Funny is also in the line. So let me explain this concept and I'll come to you. Then you have data minimization. This is the most important principle in privacy. The lesser data you have, the lesser risk you have. Risk of compliance, risk of processing, and risk of having privacy breaches, right? So this is something which is more important. Again, I can relate data minimization with the cost of data, because everywhere when I have data, when I'm processing it, the definition of processing is so broad. Is like when you, whatever you do with that data, even if you store that data, that is still called as processing. You do some automation on that, it is called as processing. You just share, disclose, it is still processing. So the lesser data you have, lesser risk you have. When you collect the data, the way you collect it, process it, and maintain it, it has to be accurate, right, at all time. That is very important. So you cannot store the data beyond a certain law of retention. And then there is another exception to the law of retention, that is called as the litigation hold on that particular data. If a lawsuit is happening and if the data is past the retention period, still the organization needs to hold that data because that litigation hold is there. Holding the data beyond the retention period is a big cyber security risk for you, right? So that is very important. Then you have integrity, confidentiality, and accountability. Probably Praveen has already explained, and I'll have one more thing coming up maybe in the later part of the session. But to go back with this particular data you have, remember when I talked about DPIA, when you use any technology, DPIA, data privacy impact assessment, will give you, it's a kind of a impact assessment which will give you an insights that when you put some data into processing by using some technology, let it be AI, let it be IoT, or let it be a kind of I think Praveen just talked about data mining, any type of processing, right? What is the risk that is getting triggered to the individual whose data it is, right? It is not talking about the organization. It is talking about the individual whose data is there. Imagine a scenario that where, I'm traveling online and my Google map is on, and a particular enemy of mine can see my data where I'm traveling, right? He can do anything with me. So you imagine that part, that your territorial information is available to someone who is not supposed to have. So is my processing of that data by Google kind of an organization is putting a right control, a right boundary to minimize that risk, right? So you imagine that part. That is how it is going. Now, when we come to the question what Abhay has asked, right? Let me talk about that. Companies, if you see companies, I mean, this is a kind of a practice in the market, and that is where there are various types of privacy notices which are given. Say, for example, privacy notices available at the time when you actually sign up. It is available on their website after you sign up also. Then it is kind of a folded privacy notice which comes specifically, right? So companies nowadays have, let's take an example without any offense to anyone. Take an example of HDFC. HDFC has their bank. HDFC has their Housing Loan Development Corporation. HDFC has their Ergo. HDFC Insurance is a separate company, right? And you imagine in the notice, it is written in a small words. We may share your data with our sister concerns for the purpose of offering you services and product development, right? You can imagine. And that is where we consent that yes, it is okay. We are good for that. But when Praveen talked about the rights of the data subject, typically, whether such organizations are giving you a right to opt out from receiving such communication, and is the organization seriously taking that particular opt out? That is something which is a part of your governance and compliance. Now, I talked about input principles, how the data should be input. I talked about technology and processing. Now let's talk about something called as output. We just saw that there are multiple reports floating. How that data is collected, what is the source of the data. If you are doing a marketing activity, imagine marketing campaigns are running on your Instagram, Facebook, Telegram. There are so many ways in which marketing communication goes in. Think about a bigger picture, how much data they would be collecting. Your Facebook ID, tagging you in certain conversations, right? Whether as an individual, are they offering me certain settings to maintain my privacy? So there are these watchdogs who are going to use that particular data for their different business objectives. Of course, I would say here legitimate objectives. But then as a user, am I in control of my data? That is something which will be told by the DPI, that whether by using this technology, by doing this processing, whether it will affect the rights of the data subjects or not. Yeah, we have recently received. Srinivas saying we have recently received the same from
Anand,
WhatsApp.
let's first take up Funny's question. I think he had raised
Okay,
his
yeah,
hand for a
Funny,
very
please,
long
please
period.
proceed.
Then we'll
Sorry.
go to Srinivasan.
Yeah.
Yeah, Funny, we can take your question.
Yeah, Harsh. It's more, more of I was, following all the conversation, and I'm wondering there was no reference to HIPAA privacy at all, and there is a beautiful, privacy concept which is there in HIPAA, very well documented and very well implemented, and when it comes to GDPR, they have certain protections, and for other laws also there are certain different sets of protections, but all of them together are combined into the healthcare domain, the HIPAA privacy law, right? And then there are certain EDA transactions which are mandated where they follow a different set of transmissions through ANSI standards 837, 835, and so on. There is a definite knowledge that has to be brought into the data protection laws that we are planning, and whatever we have discussed, most of them, the portability you say, or the notice of privacy practices you say, everything is already part of the privacy HIPAA privacy law. But somewhere I see people's view towards that healthcare domain is very minimal. Where, people are not really keen until unless they are into healthcare domain business and implementing those structures. And in my personal opinion, the key to the entire privacy is more than protections. It is the awareness. It is the awareness, especially for the or the data subject rather than anybody else. Until unless as a data subject, I understand what is the definition of privacy, because every individual, especially if you come to India, the definition of privacy is entirely different for each individual. There is no standard, and people don't understand what privacy itself is for them, right? So it is more of a standardization with respect to the data of a data subject, and the awareness that each individual has to possess. Maybe an awareness campaign coupled with certain protections would definitely help bring it to achieve levels of the securing individuals data. I mean, that's my opinion.
I
I
think
just wanted
Funny,
to share that. Thank
go
you.
ahead. Yeah, I
Thanks,
think
Pranay.
Funny, you really brought a very important point of user education and awareness, which yeah, I think Praveen and Anand would like to add here.
Yeah. Thanks, Mani. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. And in fact, that brings me to the basic concept that we always perform some level of risk assessment, and that risk assessment have to be context specific. You happen to mention about HIPAA. So probably you would be familiar with that definition of privacy, which is put in forth by Helen Nessenbaum. She says privacy is very contextual. So when we talk about privacy, we have to also talk about context. So probably you did not hear I and Anand talking about it, because we were at the very agnostic level. We are talking about technology, we are talking about laws. We did not get into that context specific. So there is, when we talk about health, there is the context of doctor and patient privilege. When we talk about law, there is the context of client and attorney. So what I'm coming to is this privacy has to be boiled down or distilled into that context, so that we can apply this generic laws, principles, and those concepts of secure design or secure privacy, so that it fits that particular domain. Now coming to that assessment part where you mentioned about awareness, so that when you were explaining, something came to my mind, the principle of A, B, and C. A stands for awareness. So if we are rolling out a product, there is a very easy way of figuring out what is the privacy impact or violation my product could bring. So the principle A stands for awareness. We have to figure out what is the level of awareness the user is going to have of my product. Principle B stands for benefit. What kind of benefit is that data processing that I'm going to do will give for my user? And the third principle, C, which is consent. What level of consent have I obtained from my user? So using this ABC principle, you could apply it to any context, and you could see these technology or these frameworks getting wrapped around these facts.
Hey, and
Yes,
You are
please,
exactly
Anand.
right.
Funny, really appreciate you bringing that point. So if you look at the bigger picture here about privacy and look at the world, okay? So the US world typically works in a sectorial way. In United States, there is no comprehensive one law which is talking about privacy as such. You have 21 CFR typically for medical equipments. You have HIPAA and HITRUST specifically coming from your processing of healthcare data. You have insurance, you have PCI DSS. Like in India, you have RBI governing the banking and financial transactions. We have IRDA, which governs the insurance transaction. So as of now, there is no sectorial kind of laws floating in India. So it's a kind of a mix. Like we have IT Act. Initially, there was nothing, but then we have IT Act. We have Section 72A, which talks about criminal provision of breach of contract. There is a specific jail under that. Then you have Section 43A, under which you have civil penalties for that. Now, talking typically about comparing HIPAA and the general laws. Okay, let's have a quick thought on that. When we talk about privacy, we categorize that data into two buckets. One is personal information, the second is sensitive information. Now, why we call a particular data as sensitive data? Because it requires additional controls to protect that data because it is quite sensitive. Take example of your sexual orientation, your healthcare data, then you have political opinions and all these things, right? Trade unions and all. Look at your Aadhaar, passport, everything, and your biometrics is again sensitive personal information. Typically, from my experience, if you ask me theoretically, yes, HIPAA sounds very promising, but practically very difficult to implement in for personal data. I'm talking about, not sensitive data. Now, why I say that? Remember, under HIPAA, like you have already talked about, training is mandatory to all the people who are processing that personal data, and training has to be 100%. Organization who is processing that data needs to maintain the records of that data, that all the employees who have access to the healthcare information have completed their HIPAA training. There are specific audits which needs to be carried out, internal and external, and a record of that needs to be maintained. This is something which is a HIPAA requirement, which is very stringent, right? There is a BA document, business associate legal document, which is to be signed to whom you are outsourcing that particular data for the purpose of processing. Now, imagine a scenario where you are processing just a personal data. The first question to be asked, is your business ready to take up this as a compliance cost? Normally, if you ask me, and definitely Praveen, if you can add with your experience, when you talk about privacy compliance, business kind of pushing back, right? Because they don't want to get their resources involved into training unless and until it is mandatory by law, because that is their billing hour which gets affected, right? Then there is another concept called as you are adding to our burden, because we need to every time evaluate certain things. So time taken for actual execution versus time taken for internal assessment and risk evaluation, that is something which is another burden for business. The third is security control. If I identify that there are certain controls which are missing, which are specifically necessary, then there is specific control. I will go and ask Praveen to go and implement it. Who will bear that control cost? That is another question. And the fourth pillar over here, very important, is a part of audit. First of all, with all due respect, even I'm an auditor, but people hate auditors because they point out your mistakes, right? And you argue with them that this is not a mistake, or this is not something which we have forgotten. We were supposed to do this, but not yet planned. I mean, there are multiple reasons for that. But imagine the time for audit, you have to dedicate a resource who will support that audit. So are you ready to do that? So we achieve or we implement a level of compliance or level of privacy based on type of data it is getting processed. So if you hear me, in every organization, when we have a legal department, it is their job typically to, once we have data maps, what data is coming in, what data is getting processed, and what data is coming as an output for respective audience. You imagine, based on that data, the compliance will be applicable for that. Like for you said that, HIPAA compliance comes into picture. When you're processing medical data, you have PCI data when the credit cards are coming up. So that's why you outsource having a payment gateway over there, so that you don't maintain that. You ask your vendor who is giving you a payment gateway for that. So that's the bigger picture with which you kind of rely on others for the purpose of having compliance, which is a requirement of even your organization for that matter. So adhering to the best standard is absolutely the best thing to do, or a prudent thing to do. But again, think of the cost to business, because privacy, security are something unwanted business, because they are reducing the cost of their profit. So people hate us. Let's be honest. I'm sorry to say this very bluntly, but people hate us. They think that this is a backstage job. This is not a front end job which will have a hype. But remember, when the regulator kicks in, these stakeholders look at us, how we are supposed to answer it. And if we have not guided our business properly, probably the slide which Harsh showed at the start, that the trust part, the reputation part, right, will not be achieved. Remember, I would not say a decade ahead, probably 10 years down the line, information security was the selling point. Now, privacy is a selling point. So that is where the world is changing, the world is transforming. And that is where we need to look at that what kind of compliance we can implement for that type of processing which we are doing.
I think very aptly said, Anand. Before we actually hear Praveen's thought, we'll Praveen, why don't you answer the last question? In interest of time, we should wrap up also in 5 minutes. So let us take Srinivasan's question, and maybe you can answer that, and then we can sum up.
So that was not a question actually. Just added WhatsApp has also introduced that, right? So they will be sharing with the information their partners and subsidiaries. Everybody's jump into the other one, other messenger. So that is the way the privacy also taken in the next level.
So Srinivas, just to add to that, this WhatsApp university is a very bad university. Any unauthentic information floats through this without any specific reference. And trust me, I think probably Harsh said at the start, probably even Praveen touched on that concept, that when you download any software, or when I showed my watch, when you use any wearable devices, or when you give your information on a processing platform, are we really reading and understanding what is the privacy notice? Do we really understand that? That's something which needs to be seen. And based on that, are we taking certain actions that I feel, okay, my product is good. Say, for example, I'm wearing iWatch. For me, iWatch has been a blessing for me because it keeps me a kind of a pop-up or reminder that I need to stand up, I need to walk, I need to breathe, I need to check my heart rate whether it is stable. So it's kind of a blessing for me. For someone, it may be some annoying thing, but then can they opt out? Is my technology that friendly? So the more user friendly you make privacy, the better it will be good for adoption, and the better you have more market value from a product or service perspective. That's my 2 cents.
That's exactly where we have privacy by default in GDPR, which expects all those features be friendly to the user. As well as I hope, to be honest, I haven't gone through PDPB's 256 pages, but I presume they would have kept that clause which makes those privacy policies and statements consumable for the user, which you have in GDPR. You can't just throw those minutely written ants walking around kind of text on users. You have to make it easy to comprehend. I think in GDPR they say fifth standard, students should be able to understand what you have written. I hope PDPB will also have something in parallel lines.
I think really some of the insights that you have given, both of you, Anand and Praveen, have been thought-provoking, and I think we actually covered almost all the areas. I think purpose really served, and I think very much right. Like both Anand and Praveen mentioned now, the core, the heart of this privacy laws need to be, of course, on the basis of being user-friendly. So it's more like Praveen mentioned before, adopt and adapt. Both are critically important, and of course for me the cornerstones that kind of takeaways that I also take is uh, user control and transparency definitely being one of the cornerstones, the kind of data security and controls that we have, and like he also mentioned about the role of privacy governance along with the corporate and security governance in the business framework. So having that approach that we have to have privacy for all, that definitely becomes very, very critical. And I think even Anand explained quite a bit extensively on the different compliances, the challenges of compliances, including HIPAA. But at the same time, like Anand mentioned, whether it will be RBI, SEBI, IRDA, GDPR, upcoming personal data protection bill, there is that common pioneering steps. I think he mentioned very extensively on the data privacy impact assessment, which can actually help us in this whole journey from the data processing, data mining. He actually brought some very interesting concepts. And at the end, we always need to remember the input process and output process, kind of a framework that we should keep in mind. The data is our input, the technology will be the process, and our audience being the output. And this is how also we need to continuously build up our framework. And of course, I think all of us would agree, like Anand again mentioned today, and I think Praveen also kind of touched a little on this. Today, privacy is the selling point. So I think that kind of focus is also there. Let's together safeguard privacy, with passion and purpose, just like we are doing today. Thank you so much. Yes, Anand, please.
So I must say that, thanks to Gartner, because I think Gartner's report will help me save my job for next 20 years. That's what I expect.
Very true. I think on a lighter note, we can always keep that in mind. And let me also very quickly share that link that I had promised in the start. And any last words, and Praveen, from your side as well?
It's been awesome discussing on this and hearing everyone's view. So had fun and love to see so much of passion for data privacy, especially. And what Anand said, data security is a 10-year-old stuff. It's the time for data privacy.
Very much. It's time for data privacy. Thank you so much. Wonderful having Anand and Praveen and learning so much from them. And thank you, everyone. I think Pani, Srinivasan, and Abhay, thanks for your participation and all those who could join us today. Thank you so much, Upkar and everyone. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you for having me.
Have a
Thanks,
wonderful evening. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Harsh and team.
Thank
Your
you so
smile
much.
was awesome, beautiful
Thank you.
throughout the session. Love that.